All sorts of drama on the Dakar today as people have been caught speeding and their rallies may have fallen around them. Jean-Louis Schlesser out of the rally. The whole thing has gone up in flames. Fortunately, he and co-driver Henri Magne are okay, whilst Hiroshi Mashioka has a complete opposite to Schlesser. He has a good day. Now this is one of the motorbike riders who is competing in this year's Dakar. He's deaf and dumb, so obviously pictures say 1,000 words. Thumbs up from him. Quick look back at what happened yesterday through the 80-kilometer plus long stage. De Roy coming through with his DAF hybrid truck, and also the rest of the fields. Fernando Gil in the beautifully engineered Seat Cordoba Dakar car. The diesel engine, of course, having a good run through the stage. However, not a good stage here for this driver in his buggy, Marcel Calavec. He says he's on the phone to one of his crew. He says, we're at the special, but we've got a transmission problem, so now we're going to try and get to Erashidia. He says we've got no problems with the engine, no problems with the chassis, no problems with the suspension. They've all been very good. But of course it's the gearbox that has really disappointed us and let us down. We've worked many hours, many months indeed, and it all comes down to one little problem. Well, let's not hope that we brought Eric Vigouroux any bad luck yesterday with our behind-the-scenes clip with the Frenchman, with his Pro Truck. By the time he got to the end of the stage yesterday, things were not looking good at all, and unfortunately he has had to retire. Saying at the bivouac here, we must stop now because the engine is broken, and I know what the problem has been. It's through a bad lot of petrol that we took locally at one of the local fuel stations. We're very disappointed because we put a lot of work in and we've had a lot of confidence from our sponsors, and now of course my morale is really very, very low.
J'espère que j'aurai la force de rebondir, mais ce soir le coup est dur.
We saw a quick glimpse of Stephen Stamp and Roger Jenkins in their V8 petrol bowler Land Rover short wheelbase hybrid. They rolled in the stage, and by the time they got back to the bivouac, they got out the car, went and had some food, went and stocked up, and then it was all hands on deck with the Rally Raid UK crew. After they had finished servicing Mike Extance's bike on the right hand side, they then all set apart working on the Land Rover. The majority of the damage had been done on the rear left of the machine, as you can see, but of course it was really only, as a rule, superficial. Mark Round there with the short hair, the driver of the sister machine, helping out once his car had been serviced itself. Paul Round as well in there, and the whole crew chipping in. The windscreen was broken, so they had to get that out and break the sealant around the edge of the windscreen, and then they just turned it into a pickup rather than a closed short wheelbase. Mind your eyes as the glass pops out. So from one type of car to another. They're still in the rally though. So then, what about all of those speeding motorcyclists and indeed some of the cars on the Dakar yesterday towards the bivouac? The organisers had set up a radar trap in one of the villages not far away from the bivouac, and it caught more than a few people out, and some of them, the majority of which, did not realise that they had a penalty of 1 minute per kilometre an hour that they did over a speed of 60 kilometres an hour. And you can see the speed there, 67, 66 kilometres an hour, for example. This motorcycle rider saying, this morning at breakfast we found out that it was a bad day for us yesterday. It's going to be rather expensive because they've all had a fine of 1,000 euros. This rider saying, I don't think it's right. It's a village, okay, but everybody was going at this speed. I really don't understand. If I was 10 or 15 kilometers too fast, I had no impression of that. It's not a real crime. I hope that they let us off.
People going very, very fast with kids and children about, but not if it's just a few well, I know there's 20%, but in a 40k limit, if you're doing perhaps 55 k's, you know, on a run down a hill as it was, yeah, maybe it's a little harsh.
Even the leaders of the motorcycle section have got some penalties. Richard Sankt and Giovanni Sala, they've got 29 minutes and 19 minutes respectively as a penalty. And at KTM it's a disappointment. Here is Heinz Kinnegartner. He says a rule is a rule. But it was a wide road with 4 lanes. It's hard for our first day in Africa. Richard Sankt, of course, has a 29-minute penalty, and for him, essentially, the race is over. Concerning the private entrance, 1,000 euros is an enormous fine. I think that the organisation wins the money with no honesty. Harsh words indeed from the boss of KTM. So what have the organisers got to say? Patrick Zanaroli here saying they all have to pay up within 24 hours, but if a privateer cannot pay, we'll let them pay later. We're not a tax authority. What we want is no accidents on the Dakar. We don't want to win money because all the money is given away to local charities, and there is no problem about funding for TSO. We just don't want any accidents. So then this afternoon the penalties concerning the cars were also made public, and likewise the drivers were not happy. Stefan Pederhansel, for example, getting a 14-minute penalty, and here he is. When you see your speedo at say 60 kilometers, you're going very, very slow. I think it would have been better if they just put a small penalty, but it's too much in terms of time. Jutta Kleinschmidt, defending champion, saying, I got a 3-minute penalty. For me, it's okay, but for Stefan Pederhansel, he's got 14 minutes. And now, he was in front, now he's a little behind. A lot of people are in this situation. It's very hard, not only for the money, but because many people are essentially out of the front running positions of the rally. So then, today's stage in the middle of Morocco, short road section of 56 kilometers, and then a stage of 338 kilometers special stage. The first real stage in Africa, in particular the crossing of the Chebi Erg at Mazouga, the highest dune in Morocco. The skies in Africa so pure, as is the Dakar itself. The real Dakar really does get underway, and that massive dune, the Chebi Erg, to be crossed as some of the local wildlife looked on. Winner of the stage, Jordi Arcarons, former winner of the Dakar on his Repsol YPF. KTM winning the stage in 3 hours 40 minutes and 58 seconds, some 48 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. Arcarons overall in 3rd position. Nani Roma second on the stage, but first overall for him. He had a lot of dust, and after a river crossing he managed to get past Cox and Tiernan, but then he sat behind Tugavado. Here we are with Frederic Moncassin on board with him, following his progress through the dunes and past many of the spectators who are out on the stage today. Really throwing the bike around and getting himself a little bit more worn out little by little, but of course many people were caught out by the jumps on board with him going over that little jump there. Many people were caught out by them, and in the end it came a little too close to home for what Frederic would like. Here we see the swing arm completely broken, the aluminium just sheared through. Hubert Auriol looking on, and Moncussin being able to move the left-hand side of the swing arm. It's literally being held on by a thread, and indeed the right-hand side as well. If you look to the right-hand side of that white sticker, you can see it's broken away just to the left-hand side of the weld, and in the end the left-hand side just comes off in his hand. Kari Tiernen from Finland, third on the stage, second overall. Good position for the Finn. He really did keep out of the way of the others today. He said to me this evening at the bivouac, I'm not really one to fight man on man. He stayed out of the dust of many other people. Although he did make a few big jumps. He went very high at one point, caught up in some dust. He nearly went head over heels. On to Alfie Cox. Cox, fifth on the stage today, happy to put a bit of time on Sankt, but of course he didn't really know the full effect of Sankt's 29-minute penalty. Knew the stage from previous Dakars and also the Atlas Rally. Fast and safe. Cox pulling 186 clicks at one point, 115 miles an hour. Mioni, defending champion, fourth on the stage, fifth overall. His rear tyre was really the most worn out of all of the KTM riders today. And he also wore a big hole in his left thumb where he scrolls the road book up and down on the left-hand side of the bars. So they're going to get that mended this evening. He also had that fuel filter changed from yesterday's problem. De Gavardo didn't win the stage, but said it was hard to lead the stage on the road. It was hard, it was slippery. He was very lucky indeed because he had a big rip in his tyre. Richard Sanks, blue number 6, good stage, but of course he didn't have his mind on the stage with those 29 minutes of penalty hanging over his head. Rumour this evening emanating from the mouth of Richard Sank that he says if they put the penalty on me, I'll pull out of the rally. Cyril Desprez, 9th on the stage, 8th overall. He caught Sala on the stage, but Cyril had a small oil leak, and then later he dropped the bike, but only momentarily. Over one dune, over two, locking the rear wheel to just kill a bit of speed until he's right over the crest of the dune. Esteve Puyol, 8th on the stage today, 9th overall. Sala, very disappointed to wake up this morning with the news of his penalty from speeding yesterday evening. 19 minutes he's got. He reckons that they misidentified his machine. And here is Francois Flick going through the ditch, and that hurt. Arcaron's winning the stage from Roma, from Tiernen, from Mioni and Alfie Cox. Overall, Roma from Tiernen, from Arcarons, Cox and Mioni.
Bien, hasta aquí el control de paso. La verdad es que me ha ido muy bien. He ido pasando...
Arcaron's here talking after the stage. Arcaron's winning today's stage of 338 kilometers.
Voy con esa estela y creo que he recuperado tiempo al piloto de delante y a ver si continúa así durante la etapa.
Bueno, pues bien, hay mucho polvo y ostras.
Nani Roma leading the Dakar this evening after stage 6. He wasn't happy with Alfie Cox, and they had actually a bit of an argument come the end of the stage, but I think they've buried it now. Here we have Kari Tiernen in finish, saying that he did very many jumps, one of which was extremely high, real supercross style, but then he got caught up in some dust and very, very nearly fell off his machine. He was very lucky indeed.
Yeah, it's dusty like last year, and if you're not in front, it's a problem. And lucky Carlos and I have been leading the way, trying to make more dust for the other riders, but I think to stay in front, keep the dust to your advantage, and maybe you'll have a good day today.
One of the key words of the day is speed.
Yeah, it's quite fast today, but I think if you don't take too much risk, it should be okay. It is a little bit fast, but you know, Morocco, the stones, it always makes it feel like it's much faster.